So the video that I was planning on putting up on Monday, and then I pushed back to Tuesday, is still not panning out. It's a research-based video, and I have a lot of individual pieces, but they're not melding together. And I can't tell if it's because there's nothing there or because I just haven't figured it out yet. So I'm gonna keep plucking away at it, but I still need more time. So I'm gonna try something a little bit different with today's video, and that's that I'm gonna give you something a little bit less polished. I try not to do less polished videos on my channel, but that's what I'm working with today, and there is a myth that I haven't really been able to shake and I kind of want to talk about, even though I'm not sure how prevalent to the story it will be. I think that there are connections, and I think that there's stuff that we can discuss about it, so I really want to talk to you about it, and it's the myth of the white butterfly. Also, I'm in the book room because I'm gonna film a video for my book channel directly after this. This is a Japanese myth, and after we saw Imu playing with or interacting with butterflies in the flower room, I was really captivated by what that must mean, because it seemed so antithetical to the nature that Imu had displayed to us up to this point. More of a harsh, cruel dictator, one who's willing to enforce these terrible laws and rules of ruling over the world, allowing and even possibly encouraging the oppression and extermination of entire people groups. And even when the five elders show trepidation on destroying an entire island, Imu has no care whatsoever and says, I want to test out my fancy new toy. I'm gonna get rid of this island for no reason other than it's close. So to see Imu in a room surrounded by flowers, playing with butterflies, just seemed so wrong to me. And so I wanted to look into any sort of myth that I could find that was tied to Japanese lore and history and legends and butterflies. And what I found is that butterflies have a couple of different symbolisms and meanings in Japanese lore. And I mentioned some of this in my most recent chapter review, but I wanted to dive into it a little bit deeper. The one that interests me the most is the idea of a person's soul being held in a butterfly. Sometimes it's someone's soul being shepherded in the form of a butterfly from life into the afterlife. Sometimes it's a soul that's lingering to kind of be present with loved ones. Sometimes if a butterfly were to enter a guest room, then that would be a sign to people that a loved one is coming for a visit, or that a loved one is watching over them, checking in on them. Sometimes butterflies are also omens of terrible things. Can mean a lot of things. But the idea of it being tied to a soul was really interesting to me. One, because the concept of a soul is something that is provable, that is corporeal, that is significant. It is a part of the One Piece world that is definably there, but the parameters aren't fully defined. So a soul can leave someone's body and go on a scouting mission or return to their body. Obviously I'm talking about Brook's Devil Fruit, but Big Mom plays with souls, the fact that souls are also in inanimate objects, or objects like trees and houses and teapots and pretty much everything, which does tie into the Shinto religion. But the fact that Big Mom can kind of play with those souls, take lifespans because of taking someone's soul or taking a piece of that soul, the fact that the soul carries some measurable amount of weight, all these things make the soul a really interesting concept to me. And the fact that, like I mentioned in the chapter review, the fact that Imu seems to have true and honest demons as the five elders, since it isn't, so far Oda hasn't revealed that they have devil fruits. They don't have yokai devil fruits. They seem to be yokai. which would totally fit within the world because Imu, at least in the official translation, calls himself a kami, and the fact that we have souls in many different objects and so many things that kind of allow us to have the spiritual and the natural interact with one another. So I think having the 5 elders be actual yokai makes sense. Anyway, I wanted to tell you about this myth, which is the myth of the white butterfly. I'm going to tell you about it, and then we're just going to have a quick little discussion about what it could imply for the story, and then I would love to hear your thoughts and your interactions because I really enjoy doing the research, but as I say in many videos, and y'all are now mocking me for saying so much, I'm not the best theorizer, but I do like doing the research, so I'll do the research for you, we can theorize together. So like any ancient myth and lore, there are multiple versions of it as it's been passed down orally through time. The myth of the white butterfly follows an old man. In some versions of this story, he was a descendant of a very distinguished family, and he sort of threw all of his potential away to be the keeper of a certain grave. He was the caretaker of the entire cemetery, but specifically his focus was on a certain grave that he would lay flowers at each day and keep and care for very, very carefully. He diligently cared for this cemetery for years and didn't have a lot of close relationships because an old man caring for a cemetery in a solitary way was considered eerie and odd to most people. But one day he fell mortally ill. He was on his deathbed, and so he called for either his sister or his sister-in-law, depending on the version you read, to come and care for him, and she brought her son with her as well. So they cared for him while he was dying, and a small white butterfly came, fluttered around his head, kept landing on his pillow, and the young boy kept shooing it away, afraid that it would disturb him, but it kept coming back and it kept landing on that pillow and just sort of hovering around him. Finally, the boy forced the butterfly out the window and the butterfly fluttered away, so he chased it and it landed on a grave. The boy watched it land on this grave and then watched it disappear. When he went back to tell his mom about it, she told him the story of this old man and his lost love. So this old man was engaged to the love of his life, and shortly before their wedding, she passed away. So he vowed that he would never love another woman and that he would keep her memory until the day he dies. And that's why he gave up the life that he had before to care for this cemetery and specifically to care for this grave, and why he so meticulously kept this grave clear for the woman that he loved. It was his labor of love for her. And each day, shining sun, rain falling, no matter what the conditions were, he would clean this grave, he would keep it perfectly manicured and just pray that a butterfly, her soul, would come and visit him. This was his labor of love for the woman that he refused to stop loving. And finally, when he fell ill and he wasn't able to care for the grave anymore, her soul came in the form of a butterfly and visited him and shepherded him into the afterlife. She too was waiting for him. The two were waiting for each other in the ways that they could, finally now reunited. I think it's a beautiful story. I think it's so tender and sweet and so very not Oda to write. But there are similarities. Oda may not write romance very often in his stories, but he does occasionally write a romantic story for the sake of illustrating something different. May it be devotion or what you're willing to do for the person that you want to see smile. It isn't romance for the sake of romance, but it's romance for the sake of explaining how a character got to where they are. And I could see, since there are similarities to this, the flowers that he laid by her grave every single day, Imu being surrounded by flowers, the butterfly that came and visited him, the butterflies that Imu seems to keep in company for some reason, and now that we see this portrait hanging on the wall of potentially Lily, potentially Vivi, and Imu, it seems like almost like a shrine that Imu is keeping to the person that he's so fixated on. Now, my first thought of this was, okay, this is Oda intentionally drawing reference to this myth to draw his Japanese audience's attention to it and kind of give a hint that this is, in fact, Lily is Imu's long-lost love that maybe betrayed him when Imu was making this bid for power and sitting on the empty throne, and Lily dispersed the poneglyphs and ruined Imu's plan. Then I thought, no, it's just too sappy and sweet and romantic for Oda. So maybe Lily is Imu, and the twist on the story is that Lily erased herself and became the evil dictator and didn't return home because she is the one sitting on the empty throne and created this new persona for herself. But that doesn't really work with the conversation that Imu had with Cobra. Imu seems pretty mad at Lily for pushing the poneglyphs away. And also, why would Lily do that if she were Imu? So now I'm wondering if this is in fact a myth that Oda is pulling from and kind of using as inspiration for his story, because he loves pulling different myths and legends and literature and bringing it into his story, but making it into his own, not just retelling it. I wonder if Oda's sort of bent on this story, his take on it for One Piece, in more fitting with the character that we know of Imu so far, would be that of a need for control. We already know that the 20 kingdoms, the 20 kingdoms that became the new rule of order, the world as we know it today, have pushed people out of their countries, out of their regions. We know that it happened to the Lunarians. I'm pretty sure they were the ones responsible for where the Atom Tree used to sit, and it got destroyed by what looked to be a series of bullets. Could potentially be an ancient weapon, I don't know. And then they rebuilt on it, but I'm pretty sure that was the responsibility of the 20 Kingdoms as well. We know that that the Celestial Dragons destroyed the Buccaneers, specifically for sport. We know that they have no problem sort of displacing people groups for their own entertainment or for their own gain. We also know that they are hiding the Void Century, that they don't want the world to scientifically progress, and just generally Imu is one that desires ultimate control. So I wonder if the take on this is that Imu has... Part of me still thinks that it's possible that Imu has captured Lily's soul, or it's also possible that that's just sort of symbolic, specifically symbolic in how Imu wants to still capture Lily, and the obsession is still there. You got away from me. I was in control of these 20 kingdoms except you. You ruined my plan. You ruined the control that I did have and was going to have in its entirety, and you're the one thing that I lost. So it could be symbolic of holding on to the soul or the will of Lily and still kind of trying to manipulate it. And if that's the case, that could also explain Imu's fixation with Vivi, and that portrait on the wall could be of Vivi and not Lily, because Imu still has a fixation with capturing this kingdom and having it under his rule. So the desire to get Vivi would be to force her into becoming a celestial dragon and having all 20 countries like from Imu's perspective, it was always intended to be. A couple other symbolisms. One other main symbolism that the butterfly has in Japanese lore and legends is that of transformation and regeneration, reincarnation, because of the caterpillar and butterfly transformation. So that it really could just be as simple as Oda symbolizing that Imu is the one that had the everlasting life surgery that Law has access to right now, which we've all speculated about. I mean, we know that Imu is from the Void Century, so we know Imu has an exceptionally long lifespan, which almost certainly means that Imu has had that procedure done, or there's some other explanation. Imu's obviously not a giant, so it's not that there's a giant lifespan there, so I think it has to be that. But I will also mention that there is a shrine to, or a memento, however you want to call it, to Imu's great rival, we assume, Joy Boy, or at least we assume that that's what that straw hat is. So it does seem that Emu is kind of collecting memorabilia or reminders of those that have betrayed him, that have wronged him, that have ruined Emu's plans. Now, have I gone so far off the plot of the white butterfly myth that it doesn't even connect anymore? Maybe, but I did want to share this myth with you, and I kind of wanted to speculate and talk a little bit about what this all means. Like I said, I usually don't like to do unpolished videos like this, but the other video, I just have to keep plucking at it. It's just going to take me more time. So I hope you enjoyed just sitting down and kind of chatting with me about this. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you can make connections that I didn't make in this video, I would love to continue chatting with you about it. Might even feature one of the comments in the next chapter review video if there's something that we really need to kind of pluck at some more and hash out. Friday's video is either going to be that theory video that I've been working on if it comes together, or if it doesn't, it's not gonna be that and I'm gonna be bummed. But either way, thanks for entertaining me. I would love to chat with you more in the comments. Please do talk with me some more. I'll see you again soon. Bye.